paying their council tax will get the right to vote on the 7th of May. And if you think about it, this was the Labour Party, the Conservatives and the Lib Dems in Cheltenham trying to deny people the vote. And we're the party that stands up for democracy, accountability, and I view yesterday as being a really, really big win. A big win, not just for us, but a big win for democracy, something that those that went before us actually fought to defend the very principle of. So this morning, we're quite proud of ourselves. Now, at the time of the general election, which seems a long time ago, I said that what we would do, we would establish a toehold in Parliament in that short campaign, and we would then move on to become the opposition party in this country to the Labour government. And whilst it may be true that the Conservative Party have more MPs in Westminster than we do, although our numbers are growing quite steadily, there is no question, given that we've now led for the last 200 opinion polls in a row, given that our average lead is between 9 and 10%, that in the country we are the voice of opposition to this government. And so it's time for the party to take the next step. Too often, the criticism over the last 20 months has been that we're a one-man band, to which I generally respond by saying, well, it's better than being a no-man band. But the time has come to broaden the party, to put in place people in shadow positions, and that process begins today, just begins today, with 4 important announcements. There are 3 things really that we're looking for when it comes to appointing people to positions to speak officially on behalf of the party. 1 is the youthful energy and enthusiasm that reformers who've never been in government before have. The second thing we're looking for is genuine experience, because people like Richard Tice and myself, we've not been in number 10, we've never been on the front line. We need people who've been there and who know how it works, or perhaps more accurately, how and why it doesn't work. And then we'll be looking, and we started this process last year, and it's going on today. We then need people who are genuine experts in their area to take junior ministerial positions, because frankly, the lack of real-world experience in government is being felt by every business in the land. So today's the first step on that journey, and I want to begin by inviting onto the stage my loyal deputy of the party, Richard Tice, and the man who, if we win the next general election, will be the Deputy Prime Minister, and who is going to take on a very, very important role. The department will be called Business, Trade and Energy. So it's a new super economics and business department, in many ways modelled on what the Germans did after World War II. This was their approach to it, and I'm not pretending we can produce the wonder shaft overnight, but perhaps we can actually bring back to the world of business and energy somebody at the top of this department who's done well himself in the real world. So please welcome to the stage our head of BTE, Richard Tice.
Everybody, and thank you, Nigel, indeed. I just want you to imagine an economy that's growing at 2.5 to 3.5, sometimes 4%, year in, year out. That's what we had in the 80s and 90s. But sadly, anybody under the age of about 40 to 45 doesn't know what that feels like. That's where we've got to get back to. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we need a new super department covering business, trade, energy, including housing, with a total focus on growth and prosperity. And it makes complete sense that such a department is led by someone with a successful track record in business, who's made hundreds of millions for shareholders, investors, and lenders alike, and who brings together a team of successful business people in order to ensure that we create the right conditions to achieve those sort of levels of growth. For example, people who understand what it is to have smart and safe regulations, but to get rid of what I call the daft, the dither, and delaying regulations. Someone who understands that to be a rich nation, you have to have cheap energy, as we had in the 1980s and the 1990s. And of course, that means using the joy of our very valuable energy treasure, oil and gas, offshore, onshore, and having the courage to get rid of the madness of what we've politely coined net stupid zero, which has been so damaging to our industrial competitiveness and so expensive for everybody at home. And if we achieve those things, then we can re-industrialize Britain.
ऊपर जाती हुई शुगर और गिरती हुई एनर्जी लेवल्स, ये मेरी सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम बन गई थी। बिना कुछ खास किए ही दोपहर तक एनर्जी डाउन। मैं जो बिना थके घंटों डांस और शूट्स किया करती थी, अब कुछ मिनटों में ही रुक जाती थी। I really wanted my life and energy back. इसलिए मैंने शुगर को समझा, पढ़ा, रिसर्च किया। कब मिला? कपिवा डायफ्री जूस। इसमें है 11 आयुर्वेदिक हर्ब्स, जैसे करेला, जो शुगर को एनर्जी में कन्वर्ट करता है। विजय सर, शुगर स्पाइक्स मैनेज करता है, और गुड़मर जो बॉडी के नेचुरल इंसुलिन फंक्शन को सपोर्ट करता है, और 3 महीनों में ही मुझे फर्क देखा। I was back on my feet and back to dancing. 10 लाख प्लस लोगों को मिले पॉजिटिव रिजल्ट्स। उनमें से अब एक मैं भी हूँ। कपिवा डायफ्री जूस ट्राई नाउ at kapiva.in.
Cities. This is how we make real progress. And a sovereign wealth fund as part of this department that understands about strategic national assets. Things, for example, like the ability to make primary steel, British steel, absolutely essential, that backs high-tech, defense tech, and backs critical tech. We haven't had this joined up, coordinated, strategic thinking across these areas for decades. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we've been in trouble. Why growth has collapsed to the levels where actually per person, as we speak, we're now in recession. So what we need is the best vision, the best people, and the best plans. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we have in Reform UK. The truth is, our economy needs reform, and yes, it's very simple. Britain needs reform. Thank you very much.
Richard, thank you very much indeed. Now, next up is somebody who joined us recently. I suspect he might have a little less time now to do all his videos because he's taking on a very big job. I do hope that when I announce him, he's actually going to be here, which would make a nice change. But taking on the very responsible and important role of Shadow Chancellor is Robert Jenrick.
Well, thank you, Nigel. I didn't keep you waiting this time. Look, we all know that our economy isn't working. And why is that? Well, we've had decades of mismanagement. But this Labour government is in a league of its own. Its record is tantamount to vandalism. It promised stability. It's delivered chaos. It promised to lower bills, but they've kept on rising over and over again. Why? Well, in part, because of its crazy energy policies. They said that they wouldn't increase taxes. Well, they've increased taxes over and over again. £60 billion of tax rises to fund their waste. And because they haven't got the courage to tackle our ballooning welfare bill. Businesses are fighting for survival right now. Factories are closing. Investors are leaving the country. And people are suffering. Everyone in the country feels hard up right now. People are working all hours. And then they get to the weekend and they've got nothing left. The normal expectations of life, they feel like luxuries right now. People just want to get on. They want to buy a nicer house, to buy a car, buy a second car, go on holiday. They want to take their kids out for a meal at the end of the week, on the weekend. But for so many people across our country, these things feel out of reach at the moment. So, Nigel, thank you for giving me the opportunity to oppose the wrecking ball that is Rachel Reeves and this Labour government. And above all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak up, to be a voice for the millions of people who are being failed by this Labour government right now. We are going to put together the most comprehensive plan of any political party in this country to fix Britain's broken economy. I'm going to work with you, Nigel, with Richard, with Zia, with people with deep experience or businesses, people the like of which there is no one in the current cabinet to put that plan together. It will be a plan that restores stability to our economy, a plan that cuts waste, that brings down the benefits bill, that ensures that we can lower taxes and cut bills, that brings back good jobs to this country once again. Nigel and I are going to be saying more about this tomorrow, but I'll just end by saying this. Together, we are going to build an economy that serves alarm clock Britain. The people who got up early this morning to go to work, to look after their family, the people who want a hand up, not a hand out. People who just want to get on in life, who want to feel better off. And there's no shame in that. People like my dad, Bill, who left school at 16, became an apprentice, set up a small business. People like those I grew up around in Wolverhampton and represent now in North Nottinghamshire. Decent, hardworking, family-oriented, community-oriented, patriotic Brits who just want to get on. We're going to ensure that you can keep more of your money, that the state stops taking your money and wasting it, spraying it around without any regard for how hard you worked to earn it and your own interests. More than any party, we are going to take care with your money. We're going to look after your money as you would. And we're going to work hard every single day between now and the general election and thereafter, if we're lucky enough to be entrusted with leading this country forwards, to earn your trust and confidence. We're never going to forget where we came from or who we're in politics for. We're in politics for you, for your family, for your future, and for this great country. Britain's economy is broken, but it can and it will be fixed with reform. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert, thank you very much. And Robert's first big press conference will be tomorrow at 11 o'clock here in central London. Next up is somebody who is relatively new to politics. He's only really been in the game for just over 20 months, but he's made a massive impression already, a very powerful public debater and television performer. And Zia Yusuf will take on the role of Shadow Home Secretary with, of course, particular reference to that one issue, above all, that has broken the trust of the British public, with manifesto after manifesto just not telling the truth. I'm talking, of course, about both legal and illegal immigration. Please welcome Zia Yusuf.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. So I'm going to open with a statistic. 1 in every 25 people wandering around in Britain today arrived in the last 5 years. 1 in every 25 people in Britain today arrived in the last 5 years. Britain has been overwhelmed by immigration, both legal and illegal. Look, I'm the son of immigrants myself, and my parents between them have given almost half a century of service to our NHS. I'm really proud of them. So no one knows better than I the invaluable contribution migrants can make to this great country. But we have to be honest, the sheer scale of immigration over the last 3 decades has broken Britain. More people have turned up on our beaches uninvited in the last 7 years than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. And those people, instead of being detained and deported, have been given free accommodation, free meals, free access to healthcare, free taxis, free leisure activities at the expense of the British people, to the tune of tens of billions of pounds every single year. And that's just illegal immigration. If we talk about legal immigration, just since 2010, the equivalent of the populations of Edinburgh, Leeds, Sheffield, Nottingham, Stoke, Bristol, and Cardiff have been added to our populations. So is it any wonder why it's so difficult to get a GP appointment? Why everyone feels unsafe because violent criminals are let out of jail because of overcrowding? We don't have enough prison places. Why tens of thousands of people, to our eternal shame as a country, are forced to wait more than 2 days in accident and emergency. Just imagine that. And by the way, nobody voted for this. In fact, they voted expressly in the opposite way. Everything I just described could credibly be described as the most profound betrayal of the British electorate in history. The Tories said that they would cut net immigration to the tens of thousands, that is a direct quote, in 4 consecutive manifestos. And what did they deliver? They delivered 12 million people migrated into this country in their 14 years, 6.5 million people net. And did they build enough infrastructure? I'll let you be the judge of that. They built a grand total of 411 net new prison places, not 411,000, 411. And to their eternal shame, they left the country with fewer hospital beds. The number of British people who have literally died as a result of the appalling betrayal on immigration in this country is actually unquantifiable. And I also want to talk about the fact that we are about to feel the aftershocks of some of those decisions. Because the Boris wave, what has become known as the Boris wave, is only about to hit the books in terms of the Treasury. So that's north of 3 million people that arrived in about 3 years against the wishes of the British people. In fact, the mandate was get Brexit done, secure our borders, reduce immigration. Instead, Boris, quote, took back control, threw open our borders. And as a result of that, those 3 million people, of those, half of whom have never worked, will never work, almost 80% of them came in on non-work visas. Imagine that. This was a deliberate act. And as a result of all of that, the most conservative estimates assume that as they are granted indefinite leave to remain in the coming months and years, that's going to cost the British taxpayer hundreds of billions of pounds. So I want to be crystal clear. If Reform win the next general election and Nigel's our Prime Minister as Home Secretary, number one, we will stop the boats. Number two, we will enact our plan that we've already published, Operation Restoring Justice. We will not just leave the ECHR, we will derogate from every international treaty that would otherwise then be used to frustrate and upend deportations. We will take on the serious and real threat that has been neglected of radical Islam in this country and ensure that if you come to this country with the goal of upending and usurping our laws, you will be deported forcibly. If you are in this country illegally right now and you are watching this, I want to be crystal clear. As Reform's Home Secretary, I will ensure that you are deported from these lands. A Reform government will ensure that we right the wrongs of manifold governments in recent decades. Look, this is a great country, a country full of decent, hardworking, lovely people with the warmest hearts anywhere in the world. And the reason I know that is because my mum would tell me that over the dinner table for decades, how lovely the people here are in this great country who welcomed my parents, for which I'm so grateful. But I will not allow, and a Reform government and Nigel will not allow, that goodwill to be taken advantage of. And for decades now, those lovely people of Britain have been betrayed by a political class that have failed in their most basic duty. We will not fail in that duty. We will uphold that duty. We will stop the boats. We will secure our borders. We will deport people who are in this country illegally. We will keep British people safe. And as a result of that, a Reform government with Nigel Farage as our Prime Minister will make Britain poised, proud, prosperous, and powerful. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Zia, thank you very much. Well, he couldn't have been much clearer than that, could he, really? Next up, the fourth appointment of today, and by the way, this is by no means the end of the process, it's just the beginning of the process. But fourth up today is somebody whose absolute determination in politics has always been very, very clear. And she is itching to get on with this brief, because I think that millions of parents all over this country are in a state of despair about what their children are being taught at school, about far too many young people being sent to university and being lumbered with heavy debts without any benefit to them in the workplace. And not only will Suella Braverman take on education and skills, something that's been ignored for too long, but she will also take on equalities under this brief, which of course means the world of DEI. And I know she's itching to get on with it. Suella.
Good morning. I'm deeply honoured to have been asked by Nigel Farage to be Reform UK's spokesman for education, skills and equalities. Now, what we teach our children, and indeed how we teach them, has a profound effect on the destiny of our country. I've been passionate about education myself for years because education changed my life. And frankly, I wouldn't be standing here today were it not for the wonderful teachers, wonderful schools, and brilliant education that I was so lucky to receive. Yet it is clear today that in too many respects, we are getting it wrong in our schools. Across our schools, a quiet crisis has taken hold. Violence and disorder have eroded the authority of teachers. Too many teachers now face the fear of intimidation and assault in the classroom. Discipline, once the backbone of education, has been weakened in the name of progressive ideology. At the same time, the foundations of knowledge, literacy, and numeracy have been undermined by this Labour government. Changes to Ofsted, a dumbed-down curriculum, are all replacing excellence with mediocrity. In some classrooms, children are taught to view Britain with shame rather than pride, to focus on grievance rather than gratitude. They're taught more about gender ideology than biological fact. This is not education as it should be. I know what is possible because I've seen it with my own eyes. Years before I was even a member of Parliament, I helped to establish one of the first free schools in the country, a school that went later on to become one of the best schools in the country, the Michaela Community School in my hometown of Wembley, where I served as chairman of governors. Guided by a traditional curriculum, firm discipline, and the unshakable belief in every child's potential, Michaela Community School has transformed thousands of lives, not by accident, but as a product of clarity, courage, and conviction. And we must now summon the will to replicate that success around the country. That is why a Reform government will restore freedom to our schools and restore authority to our teachers to uphold order, standards, and respect. It's why a Reform government will deliver a patriotic, balanced curriculum that fosters a love of our great country. And it's why a Reform government will bring an end to the transgender chaos in the classroom. Social and gender transitioning will be absolutely banned in all schools, no ifs, no buts. Meanwhile, too many of our universities are failing our young people. Today, 700,000 graduates are unemployed, each of them carrying on average £50,000 worth of student debt. The truth is that too many of our young people have been sold a lie about university, wasting 3 years of their lives on Mickey Mouse courses, all while we have a chronic shortage of nurses, builders, and care workers the system is broken. So I tell you what we need. Instead of Tony Blair's 50% of young people going to university, this is what we need. We need Nigel Farage's 50% of young people going into the trades. That's what will produce the next generation of carpenters, electricians, and technicians that our country is crying out for, all to work in a thriving manufacturing sector. Now, these are not lesser callings. These are noble professions. And these will be the people who rebuild Britain. They won't just rebuild our infrastructure. They will rebuild our confidence and our national self-belief. And to those universities that have descended into hotbeds of cancel culture, anti-Semitism, and which survive really thanks to the cash of foreign students, and keep conning young people into worthless degrees, reform is putting you on notice. And finally, in my equalities brief, let me say this. To left-wing ideology. Less about equality and more about prejudice against white people. Less about inclusion and more about exclusion of those who dare to challenge the dogma. It's why was it acceptable for white Christian men to be discriminated against by the Sentencing Council? Why did nobody do anything for years when the police turned a blind eye when thousands of white working class girls were being systematically raped by largely Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs? And why does no one in this government seem to care that it's white working class boys who have the worst educational outcomes in our country today? So do you know what a reform government will do? Well, on day one, we will get rid of the Equalities Department. We will scrap the Equalities Minister. Yeah, I'm doing myself out of the job. And we will repeal the Equality Act because we are going to work to build a country defined by meritocracy, not tokenism, personal responsibility, not victimhood, excellence, not mediocrity, and unity, not division. So let's build a country where every young person, regardless of where they come from, regardless of the color of their skin, their religion, what their parents did, where every young person can rise as far as their talents and efforts can carry them. That's the country I love, and that is the country we can build together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, again, there was no room for any confusion there, was there? What you're seeing today is just a start, but a very important start, and 4 very competent, capable people who will take on these areas, do their own press events, travel around the United Kingdom, and you'll be seeing a lot more of all of them over the course of the coming days, weeks and months, and who knows, maybe a little bit less of me. We're certain that Britain is broken and that Britain needs reform. We're deadly serious about what we're doing. We are now the opposition to the Labour government, and we intend to campaign in even more seats than we thought this time yesterday as May the 7th approaches, which is our next big, very big landmark moment. Now, I have a number of questions from the press, and you can address them to me or any of the panel. It's entirely up to you. First up is Christopher from GB News.
Thank you, Nigel Farage. Some quick questions. Why no Defence Secretary? Why no?
I can't win, really, can I?
Well, no, but these are the most important issues facing this country, our protection. Why have you chosen these individuals for these jobs particularly? What about others? Lee Anderson, he's not here. Sarah Pochin, why have you chosen people who aren't MPs for jobs over MPs? And Richard Tice, are you happy you're not Shadow Chancellor?
Okay, I can't win. This time yesterday, we're a one-man band. I mean, now you want a bus full. I mean, what can I do? I've appointed 4 people that I think are ideally suited to those roles. Very straightforward, very simple. And I think if you listen to me carefully, at the end I said, this is just the beginning. And that's exactly what it is. Okay, do you want to respond to that, Richard?
Yeah, look, we're all delighted. We're getting on with the job. And as Shadow Deputy Prime Minister, leading a huge department that meets my skills, doing things differently, that's who we are at Reform. And this British Sovereign Wealth Fund that I talk about next week, come along, Chris, to the Midlands. I know it's a bit further north, but come along and you'll listen to the detail.
Yeah, your question actually sums up in a way why we failed post-war and why Germany didn't. They thought about economics and business differently to us, and they outperformed us decade after decade after decade. And we didn't. We left absolutely everything under the Treasury banner. And frankly, there's an awful lot more to do out there, out around the country. And I'm looking forward to Richard. Well, I mean, we'll barely see him. He's going to be in Aberdeen, and he's going to be up visiting what's left of our refineries, what's left of our manufacturing industry. So it's an absolutely vital job, given the dire economics we're currently in. Alex from the BBC.
Thank you very much, Alex Forsyth, BBC News. You said right at the beginning of your speech today that you're a party that stands up for democracy in light of the action you took against the government's decision to postpone elections for May. Why then are you still resisting by-elections for the increasing number of Conservatives that are joining your party to allow people to have their democratic say? And on this announcement today, you have chosen to promote 2 very recent Conservatives to the first bit of your top team, if you like, people that were ministers who were the architects of the policies that you now criticise. Why should people believe this party will be any different to what's gone before?
Well, I think you'll find these were 2 people who were ministers, but frankly weren't ministers for very long, because they were eased out of their positions or they resigned because of the failure of that government. And I've made it clear that we need experience. And there's no way around that. You know, with the best will in the world, on this stage today, Richard, Zia, myself, we don't have that level of experience. We've not had to deal face-to-face with the civil service. We've got an awful lot to learn. These guys will help us to learn that. Danny Kruger, of course, is running his own department, getting us ready for government and some of the challenges that we will face. And I think what this shows you is we are taking this seriously. It's also important to recognise that far from becoming the Conservative Party 2.0, every one of the people that have come have held their hands up and admitted the sheer scale of the failure under the watch of the last 14 years, and in particular, the total disappointment and failure of the government under Boris Johnson, and that includes the Boris wave. Of the last 200 defections that have happened in Parliament, only 2 have resulted in by-elections. And frankly, we haven't got time. We've got too much to do. The government's in chaos. A general election is coming next year. I've been saying that for a very, very long time. I'm still entirely confident of it. And goodness me, don't we need it. Alex from Sky News.
केवाईसी अपडेट के लिए अनजान लिंक खोलना मतलब चोरों के लिए अपना दरवाजा खोलना। रुको, चेक किया लिंक सिक्योर है। सेंडर आपका बैंक है। फर्जी केवाईसी अपडेट, लिंक से बचिए।
झूठी जल्दबाजी में ना फंसिए।
आरबीआई कहता है
जानकार बनिए, सतर्क रहिए।
Payments, of course we will. But we'll have those disagreements in private, behind closed doors, resolve our issues, resolve our disputes that naturally happen when any group of human beings come together. But I mean, you know, I won't tolerate it publicly. We haven't got time. We're not going to put, you know, we are not going to aim for government to put it through the same psychodrama that the Conservatives did for over 4 years, where they spent more time fighting each other than they did fighting for the country. So I think we're pretty clear on that. And everybody that's doing this, you know, is doing this with a very clear sense of purpose. We genuinely believe that this country is in deep, deep trouble. The spiral of decline is rapid and it needs to be turned around. And indeed, one of the most common things that is said to me in the street now by people who are supportive is, you may be the last chance we've got. And that's just how seriously we're taking this. Harry from ITV.
Thank you very much. Harry Horton, ITV News. Nigel Farage, you'll be well aware that two of the people standing beside you also wanted the role of Shadow Chancellor, and they haven't got it. You say you're not a one-man band anymore. Are you sure you can keep this band together for the next however many years until the next election? And then a question to Zia Yusuf. Have you spoken to the man to your left about the Boris wave? As you call it, and have you two put your differences aside?
Well, I don't think Zia's held back on the Boris wave too much, do you? And from what I can remember, Jenrick resigned as immigration minister. What more do you want? What more do you want? He resigned. He could see what was going wrong. He tried to put the right things in place. So I don't think we need to answer the question, frankly. I think it really rather speaks for itself. Gary from Channel 4.
Thank you very much. Rather grand titles here. Am I meant to call you Shadow Prime Minister?
You've called me many things over the years. It's okay.
What do you say to Reform Party members, long marchers perhaps, who've been with you in previous parties, who look at what they think are highly ambitious, finding a home here, and you said this was ever run anything that wasn't a one-man band? And do people really change?
I think I've been rather successful, don't you? Tell me anybody else in modern day politics that set up political parties. I am a political entrepreneur. I do things that nobody else could do. I set up organizations, and in the past they've been with a very specific purpose: getting us out of the European Union, getting Brexit back on march. Both of those were successful. This is different. This is not just about one cause or one issue. This is about a country that's going down the tubes, that has to come first, and this is about creating a machine for government. And I'll tell you what I'm really pleased about. A year ago, you look at opinion polls, and Farage's popularity and the party's popularity were two different things. There was a big gap between the two. Now, if I was hit by a bus tomorrow, Reform has its own brand. Reform has its own identity. And now Reform has its own of raising our profile. We're past that phase, and that's what today is actually all about. Next, we have Andy Bell from Channel 5.
Thank you very much, Andy Bell, 5 News. Just looking back over your career, Douglas Carswell.
Gosh, how long have we got?
Douglas Carswell.
How long have we got?
Next to you and thought that they were part of the future. and very quickly they weren't. Why should these people standing next to you now feel that this is going to change?
There are people in this room who've worked for me for 10 years. There are people in Brussels who worked for me for 20 years. There's one guy working for me now who's worked for me on and off in various things for 30 years. What you will find is that I am very, very loyal and trusting of people who return that courtesy. Now, there have been one or two people over the years who think, well, it's really back to the previous question. Well, if Farage can set up a party and get millions of votes, we can. And you're witnessing that process going on at this very moment in time. Thank you very much indeed. And good luck to them. It won't last long. Next up, Claire from the Daily Mail.
Nigel Farage, the Tories have branded this new frontbench a tribute act. How do you respond to that? And Robert Jenrick, is your ambition to be a tax-cutting chancellor? Would you commit to reversing some of Labour's tax rises, including the freeze on national insurance? Thank you.
Two responses. Number one, we won that call. Part of Norfolk, Suffolk, East Sussex and West Sussex tried to put off the elections for a second year in a row. And that's your Tory party. Facing both ways at the same time, no sincerity, and frankly, after May the 7th, when you come to our May the 8th press conference, you will see they have ceased to be a national political party, geographically. It's over.
Well, and to your point, taxes are clearly too high. People are suffering right now in the country. We want to bring taxes and bills down. We want to bring back good jobs. But it sounds like you're coming along tomorrow at 11 a.m. in the city. Hear more about it.
Very good. Peter from The Telegraph. Gosh, it's a long list.
Thanks very much. Nigel, back on local elections. Is Labour trying to throw its own lawyers under the bus by saying that their legal advice changed? And should they need to publish both sets of advice they were given to show how it changed?
Yes, I'd love to see all the legal advice published. I wonder whether there was any. They got away with it last year. They thought they could get away with it this year. They didn't realise or reason that we would, have the muscle to take them to judicial review. I was delighted when the boss of the Electoral Commission over the weekend said what they were doing was illegal. Clearly, what they did was illegal. They knew they were going to lose in court. That is why they caved in. All of which makes me ask, how can Steve Reed go on as the minister responsible, having attempted to take away the vote from 4.6 million people? I'm very surprised he's still in position after yesterday's letter. I really am. Thank you. Let us move on to Noah from The Sun.
Thank you. Noah Hoffman from The Sun. Mr. Farage, one of your Reform colleagues, Nadeem Zahawi, went on the radio and spoke about what he described as a terrifying ordeal where he saw a man who looked either tired, perhaps a bit dodgy, and that sparked a lot of ridicule. Was he being too precious, or do you think he had a wider point to make?
The wider point is, and you can listen to the North London in all 32 London boroughs, and I believe it will as we go on and fight the mayoral elections against Khan, who's going to run for the fourth time. I believe that issue, amongst all others, means that I do genuinely believe that Lena Cunningham is favourite to be the next mayor of London. Genuinely, I do. David from The Express.
Thank you. If after the May elections, we see potentially the SNP still in power in the Scottish Parliament, the two-child benefit cap. Is that something which a reform government would restore, or are you going to welcome that it's gone, and where's the money going to be spent?
I'm going to speak for Robert here. Wait for tomorrow. Is that right? 11 o'clock tomorrow, Robert will lay all of this out, okay? So there's no point pursuing that. No, I'm not. I was told that Brexit would break up the United Wales as Labour sink to catastrophe in what was really one of their traditional heartlands, particularly in the south, in the valleys, in Wales. Reform are 4 to 5 points ahead in most of those polls. In Scotland, yes, the SNP are in the lead. They believe in separation from the United Kingdom, but I think they also believe in their hearts they would never carry that in a referendum, and that there isn't going to be one for some years to come. So no, I don't fear that at all. Daisy from the Times.
Thank you. For Nigel Farage, is this the end of the defectors? Now you've used up 4 of your strongest bargaining chips, or have you deliberately kept the roles of Foreign and Defence Secretaries under wraps so that you retain a bit of your bargaining power? And for Robert Jemrick, I appreciate your giving a speech tomorrow level in 5 years as reforms
into the job market, particularly young people. Youth unemployment in this country is now at its highest level in years. It's higher the first time this century. This is going to be one of our priorities. How do we do that? Well, we're going to set out our economic plans tomorrow, but it's going to be about reducing bills, having a sensible energy policy to make our country more competitive once again, reducing taxes as we can, and bringing back good jobs in all parts of the country. So hopefully I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning.
Very good. The end of the defectors. Wow, it's got a certain ring to it, doesn't it, really? It could even be a book. I might write it. You never know. You will have known that on the Conhome site, that Suella was the most popular bencher. Conservative wing of the Conservative Party. I mean, most of the Lib Dems now, obviously. Certainly in the House of Commons. Do you know something? I'll answer that honestly. There are very, very few, hardly any, other people left in the front lines of this Conservative Party that we would even be vaguely interested in. And I'm pleased to say that we are talking to some Labour figures all over the country. And as I've said this before, at one of these conferences, that will come in time. Thank you. Moving on to Rhiannon from the Press Association.
Hi, Rhiannon from the Press Association. Your former colleague and friend Rupert Lowe has just launched Restore Britain. Are you feeling threatened at all by Restore Britain? And particularly now has had the backing of Elon Musk, and it could split your vote.
I don't know about former friend. He sued me in 2019, as he sues everybody. And if you look at the history of Southampton Football Club, and then look at the history of WH Ireland, which he chaired in the city of London, you will see he was removed from both of those roles after lawsuits galore and 2 very dramatic EGMs. So friend would be stretching it just a little bit. There are, last time we counted, 11 parties that claim to be on the right or centre-right of British politics, from the Heritage Party to goodness knows who else. There is only one proper brand of centre-right politics in this country. It's called Reform. And as I'd mentioned earlier, you know, people think, oh, Farage has done it. We'll just set a party up. It'll be marvellous. We'll sweep the next election. You know, when he stood up and said that we've got to consider including those born in the United Kingdom, that just moves way beyond a point of reasonableness, of decency, of morality. And that was the moment at which I realized we just had to get rid of him and get rid of him as quickly as we could. And I think in terms of the way we dealt with that, we were probably more brutal than the other parties. But you know what? That's the way it's going to be. Thank you. James from A Spectator.
Zia, firstly, can I just ask how you reconcile your new role with your existing commitments as head of policy? And second of all, Nigel, one of your recent Tory defectors, Adam Holloway, is currently 6,000 miles away storming the beaches of the Chagos Islands. Is this an early gain ahead of the May elections?
You may have noticed I'm wearing my Chagos Islands, a British badge. I think what happened yesterday is truly remarkable. A people who lived for centuries on those islands forcibly, and as it turns out, totally unnecessarily, removed from the islands, almost a crime against humanity, frankly, by a Labour government in the late 1960s. They were moved to Mauritius, where they met the most appalling racism and poverty. They're living in this country now, mostly around Crawley Airport, which is extraordinary, around Gatwick Airport in Crawley. The fact that they have landed back on Paros Banos, they haven't gone as holiday makers, they've gone with the equipment to put together a settlement. They're drilling wells today. They're going to rebuild the church, tidy up the old graveyard, and build a permanent settlement. And Emisley Mandarin, who's now the First Minister, anticipates many, many hundreds will move to Paros Banos and hopefully some of the other atolls, and that will happen, as the next few months go by and it becomes genuinely habitable. I think what's happened is totally extraordinary. And the fact that Adam Holloway, who is now Reform, has been expedition leader is terrific. I think it's a remarkable, extraordinary thing that happened yesterday. I wish them well in absolutely every way. A terrible, terrible wrong is now being righted. And I'm pleased that Adam Holloway's given them that assistance. The Americans have nothing to fear, because Paros Banos is 120 miles away from Diego Garcia. Amateur Gossians welcome the American presence. And I hope this is the final nail in the coffin of the worst foreign policy decision I've seen in my lifetime. And given we've now had 15 major U-turns, let Chagos be the 16th. Thank you. Camilla from the Daily Tea.
Hi, everyone. Just to follow up on PA's question, actually, Rupert Lowe, according to Find Out Now, is polling at 10% with his Restore Britain. I will ask you whether you think that's a credible figure. Second of all, with the right divided 3 ways, 11 ways, according to you, I did ask Zia Youssef on my GB News show on Sunday, if faced with the prospect of a so-called progressive alliance of Labour, the Lib Dems and the Greens, would Reform do its patriotic duty to unite the right? And he seemed to indicate yes, which seems at odds with your position. So are you united in Reform on uniting the right?
Do you know, there is disagreement in political parties. It happens. And between human beings. Look, I've no intention of doing a deal and shaking hands with people that I believe to be utterly dishonourable. And that is how I view the Conservative Party. And particularly after 2019, we got rid of Theresa May. It was the Brexit Party that did it. Albeit the Spartans helped get us to that line. And, we sort of opened the door up for Boris Johnson, helped him get a bigger majority, and I feel absolutely betrayed by Johnson and what that Conservative government did. I've been in business a long time. I do lots of deals. Some are successful, some are failures. But you know what? I do deals. I look people in the eye. I shake their hands because I trust them. I do not trust this Conservative Party. And the best evidence of that is Kemi Badenoch's performance over the